Hi and welcome to the Step Over podcast. My name is Josh Lemoyne. I appreciate you being here. You look fantastic. This is Ottawa's Grassroots Soccer podcast. This episode's been uploaded on Monday, November 15th. So if you're giving this a listen, first part of this week, there's a good chance your mind is on the big Canada-Mexico game coming up. And you probably watched the Canada-Costa Rica game from Friday night. And of course, on a cold night in Edmonton, it was Ottawa's Jonathan David that scored and gave Canada the 1-0 win. Now, if you watch the game, I'm not sure if it's what you expected was going to happen. I think part of the idea of having the Costa Rica game and the Mexico game in Edmonton in November, I think a big part of the idea was that, it's going to be cold. We're going to be used to that. They won't be. But I think that logic is kind of flawed. I mean, I'm from Ottawa, born and raised here, spent most of my life here. And if it's 0 degrees and you're asking me to go outside and play soccer, first off, probably not going to do it. Second, if I do, not going to be at my best. And I don't think Canada was either. I don't care where you're from. If you're playing soccer at 0 degrees, that sucks. And not only that, I think we can agree Canada, the men's team is good now. We're legitimately just better than teams like Costa Rica. I think playing on a frozen field actually maybe hurts us more than it hurts them. If you watch the game, you saw the ball skipping in ways that it won't on a field that isn't a block of ice. And having so many skill guys, I think that screws with us. So we didn't really, at least on the first watch, I don't think we dominated the way that we could have. Maybe if we'd been in a warmer locale. But in the end, it was Ottawa's Jonathan David scored in the second half, gave Canada the 1-0 win. And after the game, Canada Soccer put out a tweet, saying his name is Jonathan David. But Jonathan David retweeted it saying, he also goes by Joe. He likes Joe as his name. Now, after reading that, I had a dream that as a country, we co-opted the Stompin' Tom Connors song, Big Joe Mufferaw, and rededicated it to Big Joe David. I don't think we even need to change a lot of the words. But with all due respect to Joseph Montferrand, or whatever his name was, if he was a real dude, I really like the idea of calling him Big Joe now. I think that should be his name, and it'd be super easy to co-opt the Stompin' Tom song, Big Joe Mufferaw. I don't know how the rights for these things work, but I'm gonna play a little clip.
And everyone will tell you around Carlton Place, the Mississippi dripped off of Big Joe's face. Heave hi, ho, the best man in Ottawa was Mufferaw Joe. Mufferaw Joe. Now Joe had the portage from the Gatineau down to see a little girl he had in Kempville down. He was back and forth so many times to see that gal, the path he wore became the Rideau Canal. Heave hi, ho, the best man in Ottawa was Mufferaw Joe. Mufferaw Joe.
Now, do I think Jonathan David, Big Joe David, will identify with this song? No, I don't. Do I think the song is probably way too valley for him? Yeah, I do. But do I think I can make this work? I think I can. So I'm going to work on this. But there's actually 2 watch parties for the Canada-Mexico game on Tuesday. One is at the Senate on Bank, and the other is at, I think it's called Glebe Central. Used to be the Arrow and Loon. So those are 2 official watch parties happening for the Canada-Mexico game, and you should be there. I'm definitely going to try and make it to one of them. And hopefully watch Big Joe bag another. On November 6th, the University of Ottawa GG's women's soccer team unfortunately saw their season come to a close in the OUA East Semi-Finals against their, it seems like their arch rivals, Queens. Ottawa beat Queens twice in the regular season, but Queens got the best of them in the semi-finals. Both fantastic teams, and just always seems to be very dramatic games. Now, there are several awards handed out to GG's players. Cassandra Provost won the OUA East Rookie of the Year. Top scorer Emma Lefebvre won the Most Valuable Player in the OUA East. And 5 players were named to the OUA All-Star team. Kat Delev, Emma Lefebvre, Adrienne Devlin, Trinity Esprit, and Sadie Sider-Eckenberg. Now, the best coverage of GG Sports is with the Fulcrum, their English language newspaper, and probably no one outside the team knows more about really probably any GG's team than reporter Jasmine McKnight. I was lucky enough to chat with her about the GG season and just get her thoughts on 2021 and heading into 2022. So here's my chat with Jasmine McKnight. So we're here with Jasmine McKnight. She's a writer for the Fulcrum, the University of Ottawa's English language newspaper. Now, is it fair to call you like a sports writer for the Fulcrum, or do you cover other things as well?
Officially, I am the sports editor this year, and then the past 2 years I've been the associate of the sports editor. So
okay, you're in charge of the sports desk then.
Yes, for the most part. It's actually nice though, because our current editor-in-chief, he was actually the guy that was the sports editor before me. So I feel like at the Fulcrum we care a lot about the sports section, and we take good care of it, I like to believe. As far as, the paper publication actually goes, as well as social media. So yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah. No. So one thing I noticed this year is a bigger presence of the Fulcrum online, like on Instagram and stuff like that. So
yeah, I definitely made that one of my main goals, was like, not everybody wants to read an entire article. They just kind of want like, what happened? I want the content now. I just want to know what happened, like kind of energy. So I think, yeah, really important for me to get that Instagram going.
Right on. Well, I think it's working. I think it's been noticed. So, really good job there. And I take it that you're also a uOttawa student?
Yeah, I'm in my 4th year now. I like to put the title student athlete there. I do play and captain the women's ultimate team.
Okay.
Can't say we're anywhere near as successful as the soccer team, but we're getting there.
Okay, well, no, let's talk about that. Like how, so how was your ultimate season?
We had our nationals a couple weekends ago, our Canadian nationals. We ended up winning Division 2, so nice little trophy there, but it wasn't the result we wanted. We wanted to be playing in the Division 1, the top 8 teams in Canada. We actually lost the bid in kind of like a 3-way tie situation where we ended up losing the tiebreaker by a single point. So kind of heartbreaking in that sense, but happy that we were able to take the rest of the days of nationals and, get a positive outcome, being top of Division 2. So
the ultimate, I always think, looks like a pretty cool sport to play, and I'm terrible at throwing a frisbee. So are there different positions in that, and if there are, like, what do you play?
Yeah, there are different positions. They're called handlers and cutters, which essentially people that are not too familiar with ultimate, I would kind of say, is like you have like your kind of quarterback line, and then you have your receiving line. In a way, that's not exactly how the game works, but yeah, I'm a handler on the team. And yeah, we just play.
Right on. Okay, so you're a student athlete. So the student part, like, what are you studying there?
I'm in communications right now. I also minor in sociology, but not really because I want to, because I have to. But yeah, I just kind of want to graduate and focus on work, because I, at the moment, really enjoy what I do. So
okay, and what is work?
Mostly just the Fulcrum, just trying to find opportunities in sports. And it's, at the university level, I feel like I've been able to cover some pretty awesome things being at the University of Ottawa. So grateful for that. And, I just want to get my degree and kind of just progress in the sports world.
Okay. Now I'm curious, because something that I've grown to appreciate is the caliber of sport in general at the university level. Is that something that you've found, or did you kind of always have like did you know already,
I would say in high school, I started to like notice and like become interested in like university sports and the level that was there. I didn't really know that Canadian university sport was actually so interesting, because you obviously you hear so much about like the NCAA and like those big tournaments and stuff that they have. So I'm from Saskatchewan. Okay. And for some reason, when I was in high school, basketball was definitely like becoming a bigger thing. And my high school team, we'd actually like go attend like University of Regina games, and it was pretty cool. And I was like, oh yeah, this is sweet, this is awesome. But it really wasn't until I was actually at the University of Ottawa where I was like, oh wow, like these are like elite athletes, like they definitely are competing, and it's fun to watch. It's crazy, but yeah.
Okay. So you're from Saskatchewan. What brought you to uOttawa?
It was really impulsive, I would say. Like I said, in high school, I was on the basketball team, and we actually had, I don't really know how we got away with this, but we had like 3 weeks in a row where we were away. So we did a week in Ottawa, had a tournament, a week in Calgary, had a tournament, week in Edmonton, had a tournament, came home. Not really sure, in high school how you get away with that, but I'm not complaining. But while I was in Ottawa, we actually practiced in the uOttawa gym and everything, and I was just like, you know what, I kind of like it here. My coach was also like our what are they called, academic advisor type people. He was like, apply then. I was like, sure. And then I texted my mom. I was like, hey, I'm gonna go to the University of Ottawa. She was like, oh, that sounds great, go ahead. So here I am. I think it was a good move for me.
So you've enjoyed your experience here then?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Okay, right on. So like, especially when I'm talking to someone, getting to know someone, like not in the capacity as a player, like I like to find out, like, what's your history with the sport of soccer?
Yeah, so I played soccer in high school, and that was pretty much my entire knowledge of it for a while. It was just like run around, kick ball, so fun. Then when I came to the University of Ottawa, I guess the sports editor at the time, because I actually started with the Fulcrum by just volunteering and then eventually freelancing. The sports editor didn't particularly enjoy going to the soccer games or something, because I always ended up covering soccer, and I actually really enjoyed it. And I think what was nice too is, as a new writer and somebody like trying to get experience, the girls on the team were like easy to talk to. They were good to interview, so that like got me feeling comfortable and wanting to cover those games more. And then also just because the GGs, as long as I've been here, have just been so good that it kind of like, you're watching a great level of soccer. It's hard not to be excited about it and become invested.
Like world champions, no big deal.
Yeah, no big deal.
So you've been writing for the Fulcrum, and you've been writing about the GG's women's team. As we said, one of the top ranked teams in the country. So their season came to a heartbreaking end in the OUA Semi-Finals against Queens. Now, you were at that game, right?
I was watching.
Okay. So what would you say was the feeling around the game in the lead up to it, and then what was the vibe like as it was going on?
You know what? So leading up to it, I feel like a lot of people that watch the GGs are like always pretty confident in that team performing. But to be honest, like, because it was against Queens, I was just like, it's actually going to be a tougher game than people might realize, because while like we played them in regular season and that went 2-0 in favor of the GGs, it wasn't the like dominant, completely like in control of the GGs or in control for the GGs type of game. So I guess I was really excited. Like I was still confident that like the GGs girls were gonna like pull through. Yeah, but like being there, it's always good energy. And I think, I don't know how to describe it. Like playoff games and just like the energy is always good.
Okay.
But it is kind of like a nervous feeling, especially when you're down.
Well, yeah, like was I'm not sure what kind of crowd was there, but was there a sense that like, I think we could pull this off, or was there like, it might not be the day?
It always feels like the day, to be honest.
Oh, really?
And yeah, like I said, like I don't really know how to explain it, but even the last time we matched up against Queens, like that's the easiest thing to compare it to right now. Like the goals were not scored early. So that feeling of like, oh, is like, are we going to be able to do this? Are they going to be able to do this? Like it's always there. But then you see how explosive that team was, thought it might go that way. Like I feel like personally, and like people there on the side of GG's, like you're just like, they're going to find a way to do it. Like it's not a team that quits. So
you recently wrote this really great piece about fifth-year player Emma Lefebvre.
Yeah.
So people can find the piece on the fulcrum.ca, and about how Emma has really left her mark on the team. So for those who don't know, like, what can you tell us about Emma? Just because she seems like such a standout player that more people should really know.
Yeah, I mean, I think she is definitely one of the first names that, if not the first name that comes to mind when you talk about the GG's women's soccer program, which is kind of crazy because if you think about it, over even the recent years, there's like standout players like Michaela Morton or Miranda Smith type people. I think Emma Lefebvre she's outstanding. And like, she, even as a spectator for multiple years, is just someone you can count on to score goals. And when writing that piece, I did have the opportunity to talk to some of her teammates, talk to Steve Johnson, their coach. And it's just clear that the whole team has all this respect for her and the grind that she puts in. And then this year she finally hit the 30 goal milestone, which is kind of crazy. So huge congratulations to her for that. OUA East, I think it was announced today, but OUA East All-Star, also MVP, which is, again, crazy, but like just kind of goes to show you, like, one, the kind of players that, you know, are produced in this program, and two, just the work that she puts in. Because again, I was able to talk to some of her teammates and they were telling me that, you know, she puts in the extra hours on the field and she's a leader. She's someone that, as a striker, still, you know, is essential to the defensive play of the team. And that's kind of just something you want, like a well-rounded veteran player. So yeah.
In your piece, you know, you mentioned that you know, she's planning on pursuing professional opportunities, probably in Europe. Do you get any sense of like where she might end up? You know, because I've spoken with past teammates of hers, Miranda Smith and Margot Shore, and you know, sometimes you have some family connections, so you aim, you know, oh, I'm going to try and get on in like Italy, or it's just you take whatever kind of comes across the table. Do you get a sense of like where she might end up?
I never really got too deep into that part with her. She did mention that she would like to play in France or Spain, but besides that, I'm not too sure where things will take her.
Okay. So obviously the GG season didn't end the way that they wanted, but the regular season itself was, you know, was very strong. You know, the team had 5 OUA All-Stars named just today as we're recording. The coach was Coach of the Year, Emma Lefebvre, MVP for OUA East. So what would you say were some of the highlights of the season, and who else do you think were some of the standouts to you?
Oh God, there's just so much.
That's awesome. That's what a podcast is for.
I think part of what made this year like so exciting was obviously like it has been so long since we've been able to see university sports. Like it feels like forever. And I guess going into the season 2 as world champions, it's like you're just like, what are they going to do next? What could they possibly do next? So like, I don't know, home opener was just exciting to have. Like the crowd was exciting, and it's also nice to see other athletes out supporting like the team. Like we have one whole section that's just other student athletes, and they're loud. Particularly like, I want to say like it's the rugby men that the things that come out of their mouth, I'm like, that's so funny. Like they're just like, it's a good atmosphere there. And then also just having like, you know, all sports services, other students and families, like it's just fun. I think for me too, since we're talking about Emma Lefebvre so much, like having her decide to come back for another year was also really exciting, and seeing what she could do. Going into like other standout players, like I really was impressed with newer, younger players. Cassandra Provost, like she
was rookie of the year.
Yeah, rookie of the year. Yeah. She came in and she was able to generate a lot of goals for the GGs, and that's cool. And then like Trini Espert's pretty new too. I think she's in second year. So it's like it doesn't really matter like what parts of the team you look at. There's a lot of success there, like offense, defense. It's crazy. And going back to that Queens game, it was really exciting because it came down to the end, and it was an extra time goal that was shot from like 30 yards out that went in to just secure that win. And it's things like that where the crowd's like, or what happens if it goes to a tie? Like, people don't know that it's just like it ends at a tie. But like they're like what happens if it goes to a tie? Is it gonna tie? And then she just shoots it and it's in, and it was crazy. And it's just like, I don't know. There was a lot of that not a lot of that this season. So it was cool to have that like at home. Because other games, both at home and away, it's like usually this season particularly, it was just a lot to nothing. I didn't get to go to the game at Carleton on Thanksgiving, the one that ended as a tie, the only tie.
Yep.
But also getting that result back after beating Carleton, I think it was 4-0. It was like, that's interesting. What's going on here? Is this going to be, like a downward trend for the GGs, or was it just a little slip up? So
just a little reality check.
Yeah. Interesting season for sure.
Are there any areas the team needs to focus on improving for 2022?
That's also a good question. I think just maybe being a little more consistent, but in a way it's kind of, I feel like in the past couple of years, it's been hard to do that as like a team that's a higher level than a lot of the teams they're playing. Because then when you do get challenged, I feel, they got on their heels a little bit and it took a minute to claw back in. And I think that's what happened with Queens in the semi-final game. And I think that also happened a couple of years ago when a similar situation, losing to York in, was it York? But whenever they missed that nationals again. I'm not sure how recruitment was going over COVID. It looks like it went pretty well when you get players like Cassandra Provost coming in and scoring a handful of goals, but that might be, something to keep in mind when you're at the tail end of a couple like staple players' careers, and you're losing Emma Lefebvre now. Aside from that, I'm not too sure.
That's fair. Okay. On a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being not likely and 10 being very likely, how likely do you think that the GGs make it to the national championships next season, in your expert opinion?
Yeah, 1 to 10 is a lot to work with. So I think at this point, I lean towards a higher number. It sucks that I have seen 2, maybe 3, like just phenomenal GG's teams not make it to nationals, especially this season and the pre-COVID season. I feel like at this point you have to really believe in the program history and in Steve Johnson and the rest of the coaching personnel at the GG, and the type of players that are staying and coming in. So I'm gonna go with like an 8. Like, I really believe that we're gonna see them in nationals, and obviously this depends on what occurs with the rest of the OUA, but I might be biased, but I'm very confident in the GGs.
I mean, 8 sounds reasonable. Like, it's not like a guarantee. You're not saying for sure they're going to nationals, but you're confident though.
Mm-hmm. It's just, a hiccup like that this year, and then years ago, it's like there's something about this OUA semi-final that is not good for the GGs, but I think they'll figure it out. Yeah.
Okay.
We're gonna figure it out.
Right on. Okay, well, that's all the questions I got for you. But before I go, are there any like upcoming pieces that you got in the pipeline, or like personal projects that you'd like to plug? I saw that you have like a Twitch page.
Oh yeah. I do stream on Twitch. My Twitch is just Jasmine McKnight, no spaces, nothing crazy. I primarily stream Call of Duty Warzone and Vanguard that just came out. But the big thing is that the new Warzone map is dropping in a few weeks. So if you have any interest, please come check that out. As far as sports projects, I cover pretty much every GG team that you can think of. So you can follow me on Instagram, j.mcknight08. or just find me through the fulcrum.ca, and it's under sports section, Jasmine McKnight, all the stuff's there. There's going to be a lot of men's hockey content in the next little while. I'm also going to be looking to do more pieces like the one I did on Emma Lefebvre on some interesting and, accomplished athletes or upcoming athletes at the University of Ottawa.
That was my chat with Jasmine McKnight. I want to thank her again for joining me. Give her a follow, Insta, Twitter, Twitch. And before we go, I just want to give a shout out to another podcast, Soccer Snobs. They're doing a fantastic fundraiser called Kitmas. Follow them on socials. You can either donate a good condition unused kit, or you can donate money so that they can purchase kits for those who want them and are deserving of them and may not have the means to get them themselves. It's really just a nice fundraiser, and it deserves your support. So yeah, give them a follow and donate if you can. That's it for this episode. Thank you so much. My name is Josh Lemoyne. We'll see you.
The Mississippi dripped off of Big Joe's face. Heave high, ho, the best man in Ottawa was Mufferaw Joe. Mufferaw Joe. Now Joe had the portage from the Gatineau down to see a little girl he had in Kempville down. He was back and forth so many times to see that gal, the path he wore became the reader.